Hello and welcome to the Replica program where we interview different Kingdom Hearts personalities. I'm Blue, that's Mark, and today we've got Vincent Corazza with us, the voice of Zexion and Ienzo from Kingdom Hearts.
Hey there.
Hey. So we're going to try and shotgun some of these questions today just to make sure that we get them all out in a timely manner. So
I'll do my best to answer them. It's been a while. It's been a few decades. So
really, wow. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
What do you want to know? Canadian, born and raised in Canada. Live in New York now. Lived in Los Angeles for about 12 years. Still have a house out there. So we're technically LA, New York based, but we've been in New York primarily for the last almost 11 years now. So crazy how fast time flies. Just an actor living the dream.
Sounds good, man. That's exciting.
That's awesome, man.
How'd you get your role as Zexion?
I'm sure you've interviewed a couple of the other guys. We auditioned, and the rest is history. You know, my agents in Los Angeles sent me the copy. Did an audition, and the producers liked the sound of my voice. And then next thing you know, I'm in a studio, and the rest is history. Here we are.
That's awesome.
When was the first? When did it come out? The first one.
First one was 2002.
That I appeared in was Chain of Memories.
That was 2007. Yep, 2007.
2007?
Yeah.
Okay, wow.
2007.
So we would have recorded that though probably the year before. So it would have been 2006 or maybe even towards the end of 2000. Because I know it took a while for them to put it all together and create the whole thing. So
for sure.
So like 17 years ago now.
Woohoo! Yay!
The cold, relentless march of time never ends.
The grays showing through here. The grays.
Yeah.
I'm probably starting to get a little bit myself too. So, all right. So, were you aware of Kingdom Hearts at all before you were hired?
Not at all. Not at all. Which kind of shocking too, because it's Disney based with all those Disney characters and stuff, which I grew up and loved, and so. That was a weird thing too, because I had here you are auditioning for a character named Zexion, and I'm like, no clue that it was also kind of in the world of Disney, and there's Mickey Mouse and there's all these other characters. So I remember the day when I showed up to the studio and seeing some of this information and reading, and then when they first sent me, God, it's so long ago, I don't remember exactly when the day was that we recorded, like was it a Monday or a Tuesday or something, but I remember they sent me my stuff, the stuff that I was going to be recording a few days in advance so I could look it over, read it over, and just be familiar with what we're going to do. And that way, if I had any questions, and that's typically how it works. And then on the day, producers will fill you in with like backstory and stuff, but I really didn't know anything about it. But then I saw some of the character names and I was like, hang on a second, those are Disney characters. Yeah. So and then I was like, got really kind of excited because I was like, oh my God, it's Disney. That's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, I feel like especially in the early 2000s, like when the series was first starting, they didn't really advertise it too loudly. Maybe they just thought it would be like too weird for your typical Disney fan to, what's these anime characters or whatever.
Yeah.
But they're slowly starting to like accept that Kingdom Hearts is a thing and that people should know about it. Like,
now it's also got the whole Disney universe of like, which also includes Marvel. So that's a really cool. I have to say, my gut, because when we first recorded it, when I saw what they were doing, I felt the same way too, and my gut was sort of like, I think they also were thinking, sure, we're going to be licensed like with Disney stuff but it's a kind of a different thing. It's its own, you know what I mean? It's not in the world of Disney movies, even though characters exist, but they exist it's like a whole different, you've got
its own separate pocket.
Yeah, and especially because you're dealing with. Yeah, so I suspect that's maybe what Disney was thinking. Okay, we're entering into this video game mega verse world thing that we're going to create, but we don't want people to necessarily think of it as our traditional Disney stuff, because it's not. It's a game, right? And there's a story and it has its own universe, and like with Organization 13, which isn't necessarily that game style of the game when it first came out. I don't think they were trying to sell it to like little kids, like 4 and 5-year-olds, right? It was a different idea.
Yeah.
It was very
Like
much for
teenagers.
the edgy teenager of Hot Topic 2000s. So,
and also, you know, it also has had an appeal to adults too that are gamers that like, you know, because it has an edgier storyline to it, right? So, so I think that was my instinct when I finally understood what it was and who was behind it and how, you know. So it was very cool. It was very cool. I remember my head kind of spinning on the first day of recording too, because I was like, oh wow, when you're coming into these situations, right, there's all this backstory, there's all this world, and the first game had already existed. So you know, it was kind of like, wow, this is there's a lot going on here, this universe of Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
how much of your character's development do you recollect? Like sort of the arc for Zexion.
Oh God,
how do you feel about it?
I'm not a gamer, so I've never played it. I've seen the cutscenes and stuff like that. I've seen bits and pieces, and I'm not really a gamer myself. I mean, again, you know, I love the fact that it's Disney and I'm old school, you know, stuff. But when it comes to video games, I'm like a Ms. Pac-Man, you know, like I'm old.
I would assume.
Yeah,
I would assume that you haven't played them either. Then I would assume.
Yeah, I've never played any of the games that I've been a part of, and I've been part of some big ones like Resident Evil.
That's all right.
Yeah, there's a bunch of games that I've done.
That's awesome.
White Knights Chronicles, you know, Assassin's Creed. I
saw that. I was looking at your voice profile on Wikipedia before we started, and I was like, oh, he voiced Lafayette, which is a character, which is a historical figure that I know, because there's like a Lafayette Street in like every city in America.
Yeah, actually, we're going down to Lafayette Street tonight to see. We're seeing a show at the Public Theater in New York. So
wow,
yeah. Cool. So and that's on Lafayette Street, which is so funny because when every time I hear Lafayette, I always go, I played that character. I have an actual direct connection to that street.
It's funny how that sort of thing works out.
Yeah.
So do you have any like favorite scenes or quotes that you remember doing?
Oh gosh, you know, I should have had stuff ready. I usually have quotes because I hate if I misquote them. Then people are always like, "No, that's not the exact line."
That's not how you said it. You're doing it wrong.
What's that? I love this one line just because to me, in the scene that it takes place, and it's kind of a non sequitur line, but the way Zexion delivers it, and there's always, with every line that Zexion says, there's always subtext, right? That guy, whatever he's saying on the surface, there's a ton of crap going on underneath, right? Because he's he's a manipulative, like he's not your typical like brute of a villain. He's kind of a guy that is always, he's pulling strings.
It's lying, conniving. Yeah.
So I love the line, "Hello, Vexen, nice of you to join us," which is really which is him. Oh, you know, it's like a backhanded, you know, hello. Like it's filled with just dripping with sarcasm and irony and all that.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you mentioned that because there's another question we have that I'm gonna try and squeeze in here. Sure. But in one of the games, they show a little backstory that as a kid, Zexion was a student for Vexen and Ansem the Wise. Right. So it's interesting to see that. And I was wondering, what do you think his relationship to them was? Would you say he saw them as a father figure, or would you say more like workers or whatever? Because I remember Vexen said that he took you in as an orphan because you had no parents or whatever. I remember that in First by Sleep, I think was the game.
I mean, to me, the way I always felt about it when we would do the recordings was definitely Ansem was sort of the father figure for sure. And then I think, because, you know, you have the mirror world, right? The where he's Ienzo, right? Which is the good, there's the good side. But I think in Organization 13, in that other side of what's it called? I get
when they're nobodies.
Yeah, the nobodies. Thank you. I'm terrible with all the details and stuff.
It's all right.
I always let you guys down, the people that love the games and stuff. Even it always happens with Resident Evil. It happens with all the stuff I've done where I'm just
it's perfectly natural. You got a whole lot more going on. We're just folks that love this game.
I love it too. I really do, and I appreciate the fans. I appreciate the world of it all. I do enjoy it, and I'm a big comic book guy myself. But I'm my nerdy stuff. I know all the details of, but But I always got the feeling that it was like, so when he was Zexion, when he's in the nobody side in the Organization 13, that it was always, there's always this in almost not necessarily infighting, but positioning, right? Where it's almost like we're brothers or we're all kind of this family, this organization, but it's still everybody wants to be the best one, right? Everybody wants to one up. So whereas but not with Ansem. Ansem is sort of was always the father figure, the lead sort of, at least that's the sense I always got. Because the producers and the directors, whenever we would be recording stuff, whenever I was interacting with the other Organization 13 characters, they would always say with Zexion, he's always thinking 10 steps ahead. He's always, you know what I mean? He's always, so it's not necessarily that he's trying to undermine any of the other guys, depending on the situation. It's just that he always felt that he knows more, or he's, you know what I mean? Or that's great, you're doing this, but I know, like, I'm the one that knows everything, you know what I mean? That's kind of, so it's almost that sibling rivalry feeling, you know what I mean? Even if you are happy with something that one of the other Organization 13 members pulled off, he's going to begrudgingly, say, good job. They'll still be driven. In his mind, he's almost thinking, I could have done it better, or you know what I mean, or I would have done that differently.
There's a really good visual representation of exactly what you're talking about in the fact that in the round room, or where nothing gathers, where everybody sits in these like ridiculously tall chairs, the height of the chair actually has to do with either like your just general rank in the organization or how many successful missions you've completed. So you can actually go up or down based on how you stack against the other members. That's why someone like Demix, who doesn't like doing missions and fighting and just likes playing with his sitar, is really low, and why Zemnis, the head honcho, is all the way up there.
Right.
This is interesting.
And I remember the producers, and again, when you're recording, we have limited time to do stuff, so we're not going to get into all that like deep stuff. So depending on what the scene would be, you'd get sort of the general backstory. What is the intention for that scene? What is it you're trying to convey and play in that scene and stuff? But little bits and pieces you pick up, and so I always felt that there was that almost like, for lack of a better word, almost sibling rivalry, and I liked that concept in my mind when I played, because it's the way brothers and sisters and siblings, when there's that rivalry, you're still family. There's still right. You don't really want anything horrible to happen, but you want to be the one that's like the favorite, or you want to be the one that, you know what I mean, is like,
you're not trying to destroy them, but there's always going to be a cattiness to it.
Yeah, there's that, and especially in that particular world, as Organization 13, they were, sort of the villains of the game and stuff like that, right? Doing these things and to take on to get in the way of the heroes, and that's the whole point of the game, right? A game has to have conflict and goals and achievements that the heroes are doing, and we're the ones standing in the way. And so it's I always felt that I felt like that was a good sort of analysis. Whereas other villains I've played, sometimes it's a much more devious, more evil kind of intention or whatever. Whereas with this game, I never felt they wanted us to go that far with it, because it's still Disney. It's still, right. We're not doing Saw, you know what I mean? We're not doing some horror slasher thing. It's not supposed to be, right? It's
Disney Saw might actually be the most terrifying thing I can imagine now that I'm
right. Exactly. Right. It's meant to be. Yeah. It's meant to be. These guys are the bad guys. These guys are dangerous, but they're not.
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah.
So Do you know when you first learned Zexion's name was Ienzo, or what the context behind all that was?
No, they may have mentioned it in passing, but I don't recall that. It wasn't until like when I actually, like I think it was until the next game where, was it the next game Ienzo comes out?
Drop distance.
Yeah, I
The
can't
dream
remember.
drop distance when you first recorded for
that was
Ienzo.
that was 2012, I believe.
Yeah,
right?
so I think it was like two
Mhm.
games later or something. Like I can't remember, installments or whatever you got, whatever it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I remember the first time I actually went to voice. I was like, oh, okay, so this is what that, and so I remember hearing about it, but never really entering into the equation because from an acting standpoint, right? Like I know from you guys as the gamers and people, when you're watching something, whether it be a movie or a TV show, you have all that information, right? But as a person playing a scene, you can only play the moment, right? The thing that's happening in the moment. So it's great to have information, to have stuff like that, because it will help you make the choices in the moment to play the scene. But it doesn't necessarily always, you can't think a million things when you're doing that. And whenever I'm Zexion, I'm not really knowing that I'm Jens, that my, you know what I mean? So you can't play any of that stuff. So I never really entered in the first times that we would record stuff. I was never thinking about that, never really knew anything. I feel like they had mentioned it, but I didn't, it didn't really, the penny didn't drop until we actually had Ienzo scenes to start recording. And then it was like, oh, got to create a different sound. He still has to be the same sort of person. So there needs to be a texture to the voice, a timbre to the voice, but now it's a slightly brighter sound because this is more of a positive character. And,
yeah. The whole thing with nobodies, I'll just very briefly mention this, is that like there's monsters in the game that you fight. Like the main mobs that you fight are heartless. They're like hearts that have ejected from the body and become wrapped in shadow and become monsters. So when someone loses their heart, sometimes their body will still be animated, and so a lot of times it acts as a little bit of a depression allegory. And so there's like a emotional barrier there that wasn't there before. So like Ienzo is him with his heart, fully formed, and then Zexion is when he's not got a heart, so he's like a lot more of that schemer, that manipulator you're talking about.
The darker parts of our being.
Edgy boy.
Yeah, exactly.
So I want to ask, do you know what your favorite Kingdom Hearts game to record for was and why?
That's a tough one. I mean, I think I don't know what other people would say, but I feel for me, any game series I've been a part of and stuff like that, it's always the first one, simply because it's your origin story, right?
Hey,
for lack of a better, as a comic nerd myself, it's the origin story, right? It's
that's awesome.
I was going to say origin, and then you said it like a second before I did. I was like, oh, that's how I know.
I think that's always the case. Even when there are like moments, like other characters that I've played in other games and animated shows and stuff, and there's moments that I'll be like, oh, that was probably my favorite moment or whatever. But I still go whenever it's the thing. The day you start is you're never going to have that same excitement, that same mystery of what is it that I'm about to take on, what is it, and also you never know. You look back now, here we are in 2023, 17 years ago. 17 years ago, I had no clue that I was going to do multiple installments, that this game would continue, that there'd be all these fans. You just don't. I have to say, with this particular game, I did know a little bit of that there was already some of this happening because they had already had, I believe, 2 games prior, right?
Yeah. So
Chain of Memories is like the 3rd installment or something like that.
So Chain of Memories was the second game. But you voiced for Chain of Memories, which was like the PlayStation 2 version, because the original was on the Game Boy Advance. So that was when Zexion first appeared, but it was all pixel graphics and it was on the Game Boy, so there was no voice.
Right.
So I think it was like Kingdom Hearts 1, Chain of Memories, Kingdom Hearts 2, and then I think Chain of Memories came out right after that. So it was like the 4th.
Yeah. Okay. And so there was
technically the fourth game. Yes.
Yeah. So there was already a world of it, and I had already heard that it was like kind of a, it was growing in popularity. So I'd already heard of that.
Oh yeah, Kingdom Hearts 2 was the big one. That was where the franchise really took off. That's still to this day called one of the best video games of all time.
Yeah. I've seen a few lists that have it on as top, one of the top creators.
So you mentioned your fans. Do you have any memorable or special fan interactions that you want to share?
Oh God, I mean, I've been to a few cons and stuff like that, and it's hard to, probably one of the more recent ones is a guy named Ben who lives in the UK, who lives in England. Really nice guy. Oh gosh, I can't think of his full name now, but he goes by Ben Kingdom, and but he's like he makes I think it's just a pastime, but now I think he also does do it where people are buying them from him. But he makes figurines and stuff, and he was a big fan too, and he actually made me a Zexion figurine because he was a huge fan of Kingdom Hearts, and he shipped it to me all the way from England. From the UK. Actually, hang on 2 seconds. I'll grab it and I'll show it to you.
All right.
Yeah. This covers our action figure question as well. So cross that off the bucket list.
It's really cool. He made this for me and
shipped it. Yeah, that's sick.
Look at the detail and stuff. I actually think I have a link to his stuff on my Instagram and on my Facebook. I think I've posted this. So you can find his.
Send it to me on Twitter, and I'll link it in the YouTube video.
Yeah. And he makes this stuff like he's fantastic. This is his own design work, and then I believe he 3D prints all the pieces, and then he hand paints it, and like all these pieces, these books come off. So like it's like I know, and then he wrapped it so amazingly, so it arrived with no damage. I mean, the detail is fantastic. Like, look, even the book has
amazing.
The book has stuff written on the pages.
That's
like even the back side of the page.
That's awesome.
Oh man,
I'm amazed.
Yeah, no, really cool. What's funny is I know exactly what he based that design off of.
Yeah,
too. It's the absent silhouette fight.
But look at the detail on the books and everything. I mean, it's super cool. Even I've over the years gotten some awesome fan stuff. You know what I mean? Some beautiful fan work, cool. And because I was Tuxedo Mask and Darien and the Sailor Moon game series, and so I've been gifted tons of stuff. And our home in Los Angeles, we used to have a home office area, and I had like lots of like cells, like original cells of stuff that I've done and that I had framed and put in my office. But here in New York, space is very limited.
That's awesome that you keep it with you.
Well, this he sent this to me just like maybe a year and a half ago or something. So this he sent me to New York. So it's kind of cool. It's probably one of the coolest things I've ever been gifted, especially really cool, the amount of work that went into it, the detail. So that's probably one of the coolest.
I bet he didn't even charge you for that.
No,
did he?
No. He just wanted. It was like a gift.
That's amazing.
Yeah, he sent. I was like, I know, I was blown away. I mean, something like that because it's an original piece too, right? It's an original piece of art.
Yeah.
So it's pretty amazing. Like the detail.
That is so cool.
Yeah, that's like on my bucket list to one day have an action figure of myself, like or a model.
I've been lucky. I've got a few things out there like Sam Sparks. They made a Sam Sparks for Rescue Heroes years ago. Obviously, there's tons of Tuxedo Mask stuff. And
they've made action figures of 3 organization members. Roxas, Axel, and Shion. I need them to make action figures of the rest of the organization.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
I would love that too. I've wanted them to make a Funko Pop of. I wish the Funko Pop was Zexion. You know what I mean? Because I get that when I go to conventions, people are always asking for that. They're like, "Is there a Funko Pop?" No, not that I'm aware of.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah,
give it time. They keep cranking them out.
Yeah.
Time.
I was thinking of maybe ordering a personal one for myself, just to and then maybe ordering like a small little order, and then take them to some cons and see how it goes, and then maybe
give them to some random fans and make some great interactions out of that. Yeah. That was so sweet.
Great.
That's so sweet of him to do that. That's so
awesome. Were there any moments during recording where you read any like unintentionally hilarious lines or thought something sounded super goofy?
Kingdom Hearts is very well known for that sort of thing because of the dubbings and everything.
Yeah, but what's interesting is I think when you get into doing this kind of stuff, I've been doing this for almost 30 years now. It's all a little corny, right? Because everything you do, every game, everything that I've ever been involved in is always, if you step outside of yourself, you go, what is this thing that I'm a part of, right? But
I mean, look at Zexion. He has the emo hair. Like you're creating an emo type character. So
he's got the black cloak and he's got black books that spiral around him.
So I mean, there's always a little bit of a corniness to it. But as an actor, I always kind of try to you try to be careful with that kind of stuff, because if you start to find it too corny or ridiculous, it can color the way you
might not treat it right.
I don't want that. I never want that to come into play. So I'm sure there's lines that sometimes you come. I can't think of anything specific though that would make me go.
I have a personal favorite Zexion moment, and it's in Kingdom Hearts 3, and you're Ienzo. And Sora's calling you. I don't know if you remember this, but Sora calls you, and he's expecting to call Riku or something. And you answer, and you're like, "Is now a bad time?" And he's like, "Ienzo," and you're like, And then you just keep on talking, and you just ignore the moment. It's just so funny because he doesn't say sorry or anything. It's just a random moment that passes. I just thought, like, you delivered that so well. It's just sounds like the type of guy that's like, okay, fine. Tell me how much you hate me. I don't care.
That's why I was like, I wouldn't apologize.
No, that was as Ienzo, right? Not as Zexion, right?
Yeah.
I will say. Ienzo. I would say that more of the Ienzo lines, when I record those, I do find those more fun and playful and a little bit silly sometimes, because that's where I'm interacting more with, like, Chip and Dale or or Donald.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm interacting with those characters, so that's more of the of a Disney-esque feel to it. You know what I mean?
Isn't that so weird to be interacting with Chip and Dale of all characters with your guy? Like, it's so weird to me.
I mean, as a kid, Goofy is one of my favorite characters of all time. Like, I remember when I was a little kid, this might be way over your heads, but when in my generation, we used to have, the Sunday night Disney movies, and there was this on every Sunday they would have there was this Wonderful World of Disney thing that they would do, and they would have like Sport Goofy, where he would perform, especially around the Olympics. He would do they would have these like little mini, almost short films that they would do where Goofy, ski jumping and or doing some Olympic sport and stuff. And I just loved it. It was my favorite thing, and so to interact, to be part of something where I'm interacting with those voices, like Mickey Mouse, oh boy, I was just like, oh my God. Oh boy!
That's so awesome.
I'm the older between the two of us. I'm a lot older than I look and seem, actually. So I also saw a lot of those Disney shorts growing up. I used to have VHS tapes that had a bunch of them on there.
I've watched them too.
Well, I was going to say the last place I really remember seeing a lot of those older Disney shorts was there was a cartoon in the early 2000s called Mickey's House of Mouse.
Oh yeah,
and they would show a lot of those as like the little in between.
It was very Kingdom Heartsy because it had a lot of characters interacting that weren't in the same movies. So yeah,
I think my boy Max Goof was in all of one episode. Man, they do him so dirty. He needs to be in more stuff. I want to see Max Goof in Kingdom Hearts 4. Make it happen.
Yes.
I have no control.
Make it happen so I have a reason to invite the Max voice here.
I have no control over anything. I don't even know if I'll ever be back or what'll happen. it's always a shock when I get a phone call from my agent going, "Hey, there's more stuff, and this is coming up." And also what's tricky too is I signed NDAs years ago, and we always have to sign them when there's new stuff coming up. So even when I do know of something, I can't say anything. I can't even hint that there's anything.
That's so rough.
That's all right.
I know.
No, I know if I was in that position, I would just be like the whole time, like I'd be trembling, like I can't tell people I'm going to be in this.
Podcasts always make me a little nervous because I go, if any questions. Yeah. But the truth is, I'm in the dark about 90% of it. I mean, unless they tell me, and usually when they tell me something, it's my agent will call and it'll be like a couple days before, or it'll be a week before, and they'll be like, they're checking, are you available on this date? And then it happens so fast, and you know what I mean? Like within a week.
Move on.
Yeah, within a week and a half, and then you're like, okay, and then I have no idea. Like you'll record something 8 months later, 9 months later, suddenly, something will come out. Typically in the past, when new stuff comes out, it'll be like some fan will reach out on Instagram or on Twitter or social media, and they'll be like, "Oh my God, the new thing!" And I'm like, "Oh, great. Okay, so now I can actually talk. So now it's been released. Now,
yay!
Okay, great. I completely forget that I've done something. You know what I mean? I'll be
I mean, I'm expecting Ienzo to be in the next game only because he's one of the scientists, and they're all trying to get Sora back from whatever world he's in. We're not going to get into that discussion, but
all I can say is I know nothing. I'm crossing my fingers.
Right.
I hope
you don't have to say it, but
from your lips to the powers that be that create the game, I hope that they hear you and go, yeah, that would be a good idea too. Let's bring Vince back.
Yeah,
great.
That'd be awesome. Yep.
They'd have to translate it because I'm pretty sure it's Japanese folks putting all this together. But yeah,
it is. Yeah, when we record too, there's always the trend. Like there's always they have someone linked in from Japan that has the the information. And
is Nomura is Tetsuya Nomura usually on call, or do they have somebody else doing it?
Gosh,
I don't even know if that name rings a bell to you.
It's possible. It's possible. In the first few installments that we did, I believe a lot of those people, like the original people, were in on those sessions. But the more and more we do them, and the last couple ones, pandemic stuff, where I record from, right behind me is our bedroom here in New York. When I have a studio, and I have a recording studio in there, in a closet there, and so that's where I recorded the last stuff that we've done, where we're just hooking up over,
or Zoom or
Source Connect, Zoom, where they'll zoom in and they'll, you know what I mean? So,
you just suddenly made me really aware because I was going to be like, I'm recording from my bedroom too. And then I looked in the background. I was like, I didn't make my bed or anything. Sorry.
Well, you just pointed out anyway. So,
I mean, it's already been going for like half an hour. I'm sure if people are going to notice, they've noticed. So,
speaking of which, let's try and get this going.
Yes. So, I'm going to say, have you ever felt like real emotion when playing the character during certain scenes? Like, is there anything that you said or did that like actually started to get to you?
I think whenever anything I'm doing, like I said earlier too, about the whole like a corny line and stuff like that. I think in order to create the most realistic, responses and interactions, you 100% commit. Whenever I'm talking about acting to kids that are getting into it, people that want to get into it and ask me questions, one of the things I say is you have to 100% commit to anything you're doing. Otherwise, there will always be that tiny bit that rings false if you're not 100% committed. Right. So if I'm playing a scene that's emotional, whatever the emotion is, I'm 100% feeling that in the moment. You know what I mean? Like trying as best as I can, using my imagination to put myself in that situation so that I feel it enough that it's generating a real, truthful, honest reaction in those circumstances. And then that whatever words I speak or whatever the actions are that character plays, they're as authentic or as real as they can be for that moment. And I think most actors do that. And even if they don't explain it that way. I think that's what we are all doing at the end of the day, and that's what makes a game so compelling to the people that play it. Is whether it's a movie. For me, I say this to people too, especially people getting into the business. Regardless of if it's a movie, a live theater show, a musical, a play, a TV series, an animated TV show, a video game, regardless of the medium and the media that it's going to be portrayed on, my job is always the same. My job is to take what's on the page, consult with my directors, the producers, so that we all come to a point where we're all existing in the same world and we understand the same world we're living in. And then I just play choices. I make choices as an actor that you go, okay, what would a person like that do in that situation? Or if it's not, I've played crazy aliens, I've played all kinds of stuff where sometimes it's not a human being, sometimes it's an inanimate object that you're the voice of a brown paper bag, or you know what I mean? And well, what would a brown paper, but what you're ultimately doing is you're going, what's the situation this thing or person or alien or whatever it is in, and if I was that, how would I honestly react in that situation? Even if it's comical, even if it's outrageous. And then that elicits, the more truthful you can be, the more the person, when they're playing it or watching it or whatever, goes, oh, wow, that was so real, or that's so interesting. And so I think that's ultimately what we're always after and going for.
Yeah.
So that's why, so in long story longer, to answer your question, I think I feel everything, that I've had an honest emotional reaction whenever I'm playing stuff. Now, there are scenes that are more emotional, right? I mean, Zexion is often a very disconnected, manipulative kind of guy. So his emotions are always going to be pushed down and less on the surface. So he's not always grandiose in the way his emotions come out, because he's always guarded and manipulative and picking and choosing and thinking things 5 steps ahead of people. So it's rarer that I'm going to have a very visceral, explosive, emotional thing when I'm playing Zexion. And Ienzo he's kind of a sweeter kind of guy, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
I actually wanted to share real quick. There is a line that Ienzo in Kingdom Hearts 3 delivers that actually resonated with me very emotionally. Is when he's talking to Ansem the Wise when he arrives again, and he explains how he's like, I was a boy, and they had all told me that you had gone mad, but I shouldn't have left you and betrayed you and all this sort of thing. And the emotion you managed to put into that voice, combined with the way they made him look with the 3D model, you could see the tears welling up in his eyes, that hit hard for me when I saw it.
It's a great scene.
That's
you did a wonderful job there.
Thank you. Yeah. That's ultimately, and it's always interesting too that when you're doing animated stuff in video games, and because they'll sometimes show me the cutscene itself, like they've got a pre-rough version of it. Sometimes they've got it almost completely finished, where they've already voiced some of the other people ahead of time. But you also never ultimately, as the performer, when you're doing stuff like that, you don't know exactly what it's different than being an actor on a set. It's different than making a movie or a TV show or being on a stage, and where you're in the moment. It's physically happening to you, so then you can really lose yourself in that. In video games, there's always that little part of me that's unsure of how's that going to play in the final piece once it's up, because you have no control of what's going to eventually happen. So I love hearing that. I love hearing that, because that's ultimately what I want to do. That's
a great scene.
Being an actor, you want to. I'm part of the reason I got into acting is because I was enamored with the idea of what other people experience. I know I'm only going to have one life. This life that I live will only be Vince Corazza's life. You know what I mean? I can even my wife, who we've been together 26 years. We're in each other's lives 24/7. But I can't.
Your own
I
experiences.
can't exactly. I can't. I can anticipate what she might experience through the world because we've been together for so long that we know each other so well. But still, in any given moment, I can't actually experience what she's experienced. I can only see the world through my eyes and my experience. And so that's the joy of being an actor, is that we get to play and sort of, for just a split second, you get to kind of go, oh, I'm not Vince Corazza. I'm Zexion. I'm Ienzo. I'm this other person experiencing these other things that I might never get to experience in my lifetime. So and ultimately what you want is you want the viewer or the game player or the theater goer, you want them to feel that and go, wow, that was real. I felt what he was feeling. That was really authentic. And that's
awesome.
It's truly beautiful. I definitely feel like that's relatable, especially because like I play a lot of role-playing games. So I totally understand the idea of like, for that moment, you get so into the mindset of your character that you sort of become them for a little bit, and then you sort of snap back to reality, and you're like, oh yeah, wait, that's right, I'm this person instead.
I think that's one of the fascinating things about RPGs, that when they first came out, as a kid, the early iterations of it before it became a possibility with video games was Dungeons and Dragons, and and I played that as a kid too. And I mean I do you remember Choose Your Own Adventure books?
Yes. Oh, those are so good.
Yeah. I love those.
That's kind of like the first iterations of what eventually became role-playing video games. And I loved that stuff when I was a kid. The idea. Yeah, that's why I loved comic books. I have such a huge comic book collection and stuff. I was such a fan of it because, again, and that's why I think that's why human beings, that's why we love, why theater is a profession that's been around, for thousands of years. The early Greeks, like, theater was because sharing of stories. We human beings, we need that to understand ourselves. We're holding mirrors up to ourselves so that we can make sense of the stuff we're going through in this world, whether it be a happy moment, a horrible moment, a tragic moment. Because we can only experience life through our own eyes and our own bodies. In order to have empathy and compassion, and we need each other to exist. Mm-hmm. It's art that allows us to kind of figure out those shared experiences and go, oh, that's what that is, or that's what I'm feeling, or other people feel it too, or you know what I mean? Or you watch a movie or you play a video game, you get to have that moment where you go, oh, now I might not have walked in that person's shoes really, but now I have a little bit better understanding of what that other person is going through, right? Of what their life is happening, because you've experienced it.
In that way, there's a strange sort of intricate connection between art and almost like therapy. There's a popular thing these days where people are like, men would rather conquer a nation than go to therapy or whatever. Like, basically saying like, more people should go to therapy, which I agree with. We all have issues. But art is sort of a way where you can explore these complicated emotions and thoughts and feelings vicariously through someone else. So
I have a saying that I use to explain that. One of the things, and that's one of the reasons why I became an artist, is I was always an actor, and specifically an actor, is because I was always enamored and kind of like obsessed with behavior, with what made a person do that? Why did that person do that in that moment, and why they didn't do this? And so it's always been something fascinating to me. And the thing that I always say, because art is doing the same kind of thing always. Whoever the artist is creating it, whether you're a novelist, a painter, a musician, an actor, a writer, a playwright, whatever the medium is, the idea is you're always there's some sort of thing that you're trying to figure out, or that's touching you, and the only way that the artist knows how to express it is through that art form. And the beauty of what art does, whatever the medium is it doesn't force it on you. A politician
Mhm.
says, I think I know what we need to do to solve this problem. And we human beings just naturally have a little bit of an instinct to go, I don't know if that's, we always were a little bit suspicious. It's a natural thing. Evolutionary wise, we are, it's built into our DNA because that's survival. It's the change 1,000 years ago could mean death, right? Just the simplest change. This is walking out of your, couple thousand years ago, I mean, every day that you wake up could be death, right?
I mean, that's so true today as well.
So it's baked into our
so true today. Yeah.
So it's baked into our DNA as human beings to be cautious, to be hesitant when somebody's telling us, I know what's best for you. Whereas art says, I'm not telling you what's best for you. I'm telling you what I am exploring through my art. You get to choose if you like it or not. I present it to you, and if you like that, you go, that makes sense to me. And the beauty of any good piece of art, whether it be a painting, a novel, a movie, again, like whatever the medium is, a video game, an animated series, the beauty of it is in order to portray sort of whatever it is the artist wants to tell, they often have to portray both sides equally. Right? So conflict is what's fascinating to us, right? Without conflict, it's uninteresting, right? Even in a painting of just a simple lily pad or whatever, right? There's still usually what makes something exceptional. One painter might paint a lily pad and you go, well, there's nothing there behind it because they didn't put the detail in or whatever. But when there's tons of detail and all of a sudden it strikes you, it's because it's evoking something in you that makes you go, it's spurring something that is making your mind turn, right? The hamster wheel starts to go.
Yeah.
But it's not forcing it on you. You are the one choosing it, deciding how that affected you. And so that's one of the reasons why I think art and video games, why it speaks to us so much, why people become so obsessed with it, why they love, I get fans that are crazy about Sailor Moon or crazy Assassin's Creed people or Kingdom Hearts people or, Resident Evil people, and what one person might love a Resident Evil type of game and goes, nah, I'm not a fan of Kingdom Hearts at all. One Kingdom Hearts fans are like, nah, I'm not into that game. You know what I mean?
It is very representative of art,
But also because when we create the whatever the art is we're creating, we're not saying you must play this game, you must like it. We're going, this is our thing that we created. We hope you like it. We hope that it speaks to you. We hope you feel what we feel. And if you do, then it's this awesome shared experience we humans create, and then it's a whole new thing that we create. And it's
I agree.
Yeah.
Vince, this is such an amazing and fascinating, like I could honestly talk about this with you for another hour or two. We unfortunately don't have that time, so I do have to try and get out.
That's been on my mind the past 5 minutes. I'm sitting here like, oh my god, we have 10 minutes left.
Don't worry. I've been keeping track of what questions have already been sort of answered indirectly and everything. So I've been
all right.
Okay. But so I'm gonna ask, did you like Zexion more when he was just straight up a villain or when he's more the heroic figure he is now? So like I guess Zexion or Ienzo, do you have a preference for which one you find?
I've never been one of those guys. I will say Vince Corazza loves to play villains. I do. I just love them. I mean, there's a freedom. There's a freedom in villains that is when you're the hero. When you're the hero, the protagonist, you have a little bit more pressure to. It's the work you do in ahead of time, because when you're in the moment playing the scenes, you let all that go. But there is a little more pressure to, that whoever's watching, your eventual audience is going to be rooting for you. The hero is the person that most of the audience identifies with, right? That's the concept behind protagonist, antagonist, right? So you end up, I find for myself, there's still a freedom as an actor to bring whatever ideas I have. But there's a little more pressure to I hate to use the word please, but that is, for lack of a better phrase, you need to kind of please the audience, right? Whereas villains, there's a little more of a freedom to go, I want to surprise the audience. I often find with villains, my approach is more, what could I do that they wouldn't have expected? And that's more, and as I said earlier, as an actor, part of the reason I became an actor is because I want to do things that Vince Corazza wouldn't necessarily get to experience. So villains tend to have a little more freedom to go, oh, I'm going to try this. And that's not something that Vince Corazza, would necessarily do, because I'm not a bad person. At least I hope I'm not. I'm hoping people don't think of me as a bad person. I would hopefully never do those nasty little manipulative things. You know what I mean? So there's a fun freedom and exploration that you get in villains that you don't often get in heroes. But I still love playing it all, because it's all fun. It's play. You know what I mean?
It's all part of the experience.
Yeah. It's all, no matter what you do, you end up walking away. And the beauty of art, video games, whatever it is too, is the minute I finish doing something and it's in the can and it's done and you can never go back to it, my brain always goes, oh, I could have done, oh, there was that. And that's the fun.
We all do that.
It's the endless conflict too, as the artist, where you go, damn, nothing will ever be perfect or finished. And there's kind of a beauty in that.
That means there's always more to do.
That's right. There's kind of a beauty in that.
Always more to do.
There's always tomorrow. There's always something new to learn that you go, oh, I could bring that to my next performance, or I could bring that piece of information to the next time I do this. And, there's always that, which makes it fun, which is the whole point of doing it.
I am mourning for the philosophical discussions that we could have, because you are clearly tuned into the same stuff as me. I'm going to ask our final question for today, because most of what's on our list has already been answered, even if I didn't directly ask the question. The final question is specific to this podcast. What is your favorite ice cream flavor?
If my wife was here right now, she would just start laughing. She would fall down laughing. When people ask me about food, there is that's a whole other podcast. That's a whole, you need 5 hours just to hear me.
Oh God, you're the second person that has said this in a row.
Yeah.
I'm a food nut. Food is probably my major addiction. And to say, and the word ice cream, that is, I could write a novel on ice cream. Because now, are we talking about American ice cream? Or are we talking about Italian gelato? Because now there's a whole. That's
I don't know what fuck you want.
We will leave it up to your discretion.
Oh God! Yeah. How do you answer?
What's your favorite?
How do you pick just one?
Top 3 if it's too hard, I guess.
It's such a tip. It's an impossible because it depends.
Put the pressure on you.
It depends on what I just ate for, what did I eat previous, and what do I want to finish with, and
that's fair.
Yeah.
Okay. Imagine it this way then.
I'll give you a couple. I'll pick a couple. Let's see. Okay. I do the promos for the Late Show with Stephen Colbert, and he has an ice cream called Americone Dream that he put out. All the late night guys, all the late night guys did it, and it's for charity and stuff. So when you buy it, a portion of it, I believe it's a Ben and Jerry's flavor. So when you buy it, and ironically, it's delicious. It's a fantastic ice cream too. So I love that one. But that's it's got a bunch of stuff in it. If you're gonna go simple, then I'm gonna go with Italian gelatos, pistachio, dark cherry. That's one of my favorites. Yeah, dark cherry. I love any cheesecake-based ice cream is good in America. I love a coffee. Anything salted.
Coffee-flavored ice cream is delicious.
Yes, yeah. Anything salted caramel. Salted caramel. Sure yes, anything salted caramel. Snickerdoodle. That's what I'm saying. You have no idea
we open the floodgates with that.
Yeah, the floodgates. Yeah. And now all I'm thinking about is ice cream. So now I can run out and go get some ice cream. That's all I'm going to think about for the rest of the day.
You're welcome. Well, the reason why we ask is because in the games, sea salt ice cream is a very big component in the games.
Sea salt.
I don't even know if you know that.
Fantastic! Yeah. I did not know that.
It's actually thanks to a few members of Organization 13, the ones that we mentioned before, Roxas, Shion, and Axel. Basically, after their missions every day, they would meet up on a clock tower. They would eat sea salt ice cream, and that was like their hangout thing. So as a result, and Ansem the Wise's favorite ice cream was sea salt ice cream. So it's like a big
you
connective
eat
tissue.
sea salt ice cream with him as a kid. You're seeing eating it with him.
In Birth by Sleep, little Ienzo, who's like, I don't know, 7 years old maybe, is like eating a sea salt ice cream.
Like I said,
that sounds delicious because I love sea salt and especially flake salt. Big, the fat flake salt finishing salt that you put on. Like, you put that in ice cream. Any dessert, you got to have some flake salt on it because the salt highlights the sweet. The sweet highlights the salt, so it's like. Sea salt is fabulous, man.
That's literally what they say. They say it's salty and sweet. And they always say it in the exact way. It's so funny.
Yeah. It's like, to me, chocolate milk. I'll never forget. Years ago, when we were living in LA, we were watching an episode of Modern Family, and in the episode, Manny goes to make like chocolate milk, and Jay, I think it's Jay that tells him to put. He's like, you can't drink chocolate. You got to put salt in it. It's like you got to put sea salt in it, and because in it, and then Manny goes and drinks it, and he's like, "What?" He's like, and drinks it. He's like, "Oh my god, this is amazing!" And I turned to my wife in that moment because I love chocolate milk, and I ran to the kitchen, made chocolate milk,
and put salt in it.
And she, to this day, she cracks up when I tell the story. I go, my face. She said my face was like equal parts joy and equal parts like tragic sorrow, where I was like. In that moment, I can't get all the years that I've lost back that I could have been putting salt in chocolate milk all these years. Like, I'm like, oh my God. And now I'm like, I make myself a hot chocolate every night. It's like it's like a ritual for me at night. And I put sea salt in it. And that's one of my things. Like, it's one of my favorite things.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So salty sweet is the answer to life.
I agree.
Yeah, man.
We're going to start wrapping it up here. So I do want to say, Vince, thank you so much for joining us today.
Man. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, this has been such a lovely
me and little Zex.
Make sure to send me a link to that on Twitter. I'll
if you go on my Instagram, I think I've posted it before on Twitter and definitely on Facebook, on my Facebook page, and I'm pretty sure I posted it on Instagram. Pictures of it.
I'm looking for it.
Yeah, but I'll send you a link. I'll message you and send you a link. You guys can add it and stuff because he's great. The stuff he creates is incredible. Yeah, and he's a really nice guy.
My face hurts from smiling so much in this episode, by the way.
Right on. Right on. I'm glad.
All right.
It's been great talking to you, man.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, it was fun to talk to you guys too. I love people that are fans of the work and just because that's ultimately anytime we get a job, we actors. This is eventually what we're always hoping for, is that it will connect with other people and bring the joy, and whether it's happiness or revelations or shared experience. That's what we want. That's ultimately what we're after, and so. I love when this kind of stuff happens.
Your work is definitely connected with us, and it's made a wonderful positive impact. So thank you once again.
Thank you.
I don't know if you want to stick around for our little outro here, or if you need to get going.
I can. Sure, go for it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and say that this podcast is a part of the Holopods Podcast Network. I got another podcast on there. It's Cape Corner and the Fandom Optimists and True Believers, a comic book podcast, SJW Comic Book Club, and it's like movies to watch before you die. That's a new one. They're all really cool podcasts, especially mine. So go give them a listen. The link tree will be in the description of the video. You can wait. Do we not have we don't have a social media page for this one yet, do we?
I don't think we do.
It's fine. We'll make it sometime later.
We do have a YouTube channel, though.
Yes. So this will be posted on the YouTube channel. This will be the second episode. You can also check out the first episode. And if you're in the future, when we've already made a million more episodes, you can check them out as well. I'll probably be putting a playlist together so that they're all easy to watch.
one more thing. I'm gonna share my screen. I don't know if this is working or
Oh,
not. Let
right,
me
right. I forgot about this part.
share my screen. I'm gonna share this real quick. We have our daily shout out. We're gonna be shouting BioRox today. BioRox has just made a whole video of psychology of Riku in Kingdom Hearts. He
Oh,
previously did
cool.
a video on Sora about a couple months ago, and he's done some other Kingdom Hearts videos as well. And yeah, I highly recommend this guy. He's a sweet guy. I talked to him. I watched Five Nights at Freddy's with him in his Discord server the other night. Pretty awesome guy. So
He's great. I've
yeah,
watched
there's
some of
our.
his essay videos. He's a very intelligent, very interesting person. So
Right
Yeah,
on.
very
That's
good.
cool.
I would
All right,
When's he
love
so
to
gonna
I'll
see
do?
him
When's he gonna do
cover
a Zexion? He's
Ienzo
got to
one
do a
day.
Zexion bio, right?
Yeah,
He's
I
got
would
uh,
to.
love to see him do psychology of Zexion. Yes, let's do
Yeah,
yeah,
it.
no,
that'd be
that would
fascinating.
legitimately be a really interesting video. I
I
would
think
like to
so
see him do
too.
It would
that.
be.
I think so too. I mean, that'd be fascinating. Right
All
on,
right,
guys.
I'll let you know if he ever does. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, reach out. Yeah, send me
All right.
a message for sure.
well, Vince, once again, thank
All
you
right.
for joining us. It has been absolutely a pleasure to talk to you today. And I know everybody says that at the end of every interview, but legitimately, like I said, my face was hurting from
We mean
smiling,
it.
so it's been
We
great.
mean it whenever we say it. We promise.
I,
We
I,
mean
I
it.
had a
You have
blast.
no
I had a
idea.
blast. You guys were great. I can feel. What I love is I can instantly feel how much you guys love the game and your
Yeah.
appreciation
So
of the
much.
characters and stuff. So that means
Yeah.
that means the world to me. That I whenever I get into these situations, I can't stop smiling. My cheeks hurt from just
Yeah,
because
same,
that's what,
same.
like I've said a couple times today, repeated it multiple times. That's ultimately anytime we do this, the work we do, this is what we ultimately want. This is what our dream is
Yeah.
that it will connect with people and make them happy and they'll appreciate the work. And so that means the world to me.
Yeah.
Stop, man! You're gonna make me cry. Like,
Thanks so much, guys.
Yeah.
thank
I
you.
gotta
Yeah, man.
I
Have
gotta
a
roll.
good
I gotta
day.
rock and roll. But you guys have a great weekend. All right. Happy
You as
Thanksgiving.
You
well.
too, man.
Happy
Happy
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
You
Have
have
a
a
good
good
day,
one.
my friend.
All right.
Me
Happy
too. Happy
holidays.
Thanksgiving, my friend.
All right.
You
Take
too.
care.
See ya.
Bye.
You too, man. Have a good day.